Hi, this is Steve, V6WZ. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I use the Jaguar software program to review my medium wave broadcast band recorded files. Just to remind everyone, though, my station is remote. It's a purpose-built ham radio remote station, and it's 100 kilometers away from my home QTH. This is the PC at home, by the way, and this is my desktop photo. I uploaded this, by the way, from a photo I took this summer on one of my many hikes into the Canadian Rockies. Boy, I live in a beautiful part of the world. I got to admit, I'm pretty proud of it. Hey, the way I log into and use the PC that's up at my remote station is either using one of the many desktop applications, either TeamViewer or Splashtop, or in this case, I'm using AnyDesk. They all work, and what they all do is return full, complete audio. That's any audio that's present on the PC up there is also being returned. So honestly, these remote desktop programs, I mean, it's just as though I'm sitting up there. So that's how I control the station. By the way, I have 3 PCs at my remote station, and this particular one is dedicated to both the Perseus and the Jaguar software program. Unfortunately, I've just been unable to get my PC here to return the audio from the PC itself together with my microphone audio, so that I can't really provide you with any of the radio audio here. I've done it before on one of my other PCs, and I need the stereo mix part of the sound card to be activated, and I'm just having difficulty with this PC. But hopefully you'll find that we don't really need to hear the audio of. I'm just going to describe how I go through the process of reviewing all of the recorded files. You'll notice here that Jaguar is reduced, and I am sure if you use Jaguar, you know that the program itself, when you open it, at the very bottom there's a little green dot, and at any time it'll be red, of course, if it's recording. But you can press that at any time, and then Jaguar will be running in the background. That's kind of handy to do. First thing to talk about is the YAS log. It's an acronym for yet another spectrum. Don't ask me. I have no idea why it's called that. But anyway, the YAS log is generated. It's some kind of FFT analysis which plots the presence of carriers on the different frequencies. So the display is shown here, and you'll notice at the top banner, it's the frequencies that are shown. Now you can change that, and you'll notice here is something called the top bar. You can toggle that, the title bar rather. Messages, or you turn it right off, or toggle it to scope bar, or in this case title bar. So then you can actually see the frequencies. Though having said that, you'll notice also as we move the cursor around on the YAS plot, you can see that a little flag will come up, and it'll show you both the frequency and the time. All right, if you can see that as I move the cursor. What's important to understand is the YAS log functionality is always running. You cannot actually turn it off ever. As long as Jaguar is running, a YAS log is being created. So assuming that you've had Jaguar open for a while, when you go to the program, and you notice at the top there's a thing called YAS log. If you click it, it will it'll bring up the log. And a few of the things you can do here, you'll notice again the time is on the side. It's shown here along the side scale, going down in time. The other thing that's shown on here with respect to time, you'll notice there's some yellow lines, and this is automated at the top here. You'll notice this is my sunset, and that's determined by the lat long location that's input into the program and the parameters. And sunset is also noticed. You'll see sunsets at the bottom. And one other thing you'll see on the left, if you put your cursor, to the right. If I put my cursor far to the right against the window, you see something called zoom. What I found the best to do is press page up or page down. So there I press page up, so I sort of zoomed out. So basically what we're seeing is the presence of carriers, and the other thing to notice on the bottom banner here, you notice I've toggled it to 9. Hopefully you can see my cursor here. That's at 9. So that's the 9 kilohertz splits, the 9 kilohertz spacing for DX. Now if I went to VFO, that's V. This then is eliminating anything that's those coincident 9 kilohertz splits with the 10 kilohertz domestic band. So those are removed. I kind of like to have the 9 on because in fact some of the 9s I can actually copy DX on them. But if, by the way, if I were to put on 10, you'll notice right away that, oops, I got to go back here. You'll notice that if I go back, that all of a sudden, it's full because, of course, all the domestics are showing up. Now, the other thing you can do, so anyway, by the way, you can see that there wasn't a whole lot at my sunset, but then this is my sunrise, and you can see all of the Asian carriers starting to show up. And again, as I talked about in my other video, this red line on the side, this is called the JICs, and it's an increasing number depending on how many carriers and audio stations you're seeing. And it's really kind of quite obvious, you get that peak right at sunrise. So if you'll notice up here in the YAS log, another thing I can do is I can press you can either press your right mouse click or button or your left mouse button. And if I toggle my left button, there you'll notice it's toggled up here to October 11th. And then I press it again, and this is October 10th. All right, so right away, I mean, what a handy thing, because in fact, here back on October 10th, you can see that I was getting quite a bit of European transpolar DX showing up on my 9 kilohertz splits. Again, if I wanted, I could toggle off the few 10s in there, and you can really see this is the DX only stations. Again, you'll notice oddly there was a time here when Asia and the South Pacific started to come in, but there was this fade right in the middle of things, and then Asia started to perk up again. What a fantastic tool to have a real quick look as to seeing how the band is doing and what the propagation is like. So again, I could go up to my YAS log and click my left mouse, and there was yesterday, the 11th, and you can see we had a really tremendous opening to Asia, and you'll notice past sunset I had lots of signals still coming through. And if I click again, this was this morning on October 12th. So what you'll notice is when I put my cursor over here, that my flag box, okay, is gray. And that means that if I click that, nothing happens. There's no audio. Would not hear anything, and that's because I'm listening live. So what we want to do is pull up one of our files, and you notice the little file folder on the bottom right beside the green ball here. So I'll click that, and it'll automatically bring up the file of my recordings, and I know where I've stored them. They're on what I call Perseus recordings. So let's pull up it. In this case, it really doesn't matter, but I'll open it one of the days and click any file. Okay, and what that does is it tells the Jaguar that I'm now listening to my recordings. And you'll notice now that the flag is lit up. So what will happen is you can't hear it, as I explained at the outset of this video, but if I click that now, I am hearing audio for that frequency. And you'll notice on the bottom banner here, it shows me my current frequency, and the blue banner is the time. If I click here, I'm clicking in this banner, you notice my time is advancing. I can also use my right arrow and go ahead in time. I'm clicking the right arrow on the keyboard. The other thing I can do to advance in time on this frequency of 1314 is the fast forward button. So this takes me to the next file instantly. So now I'm on the next file, or I could go to the next file, or I could go backwards in time. You notice the time is incrementing here. This is 1339 UT time. Now you'll notice if I get to the end of this file, again, you can't hear it, but it will automatically flip to the next file. When it hits 13, whatever it is, there it did. It just jumped to the next file, so it's completely seamless and will continue to play. So we can easily point and shoot, advance through time on any one file. It'll also give you a little cursor here. Do you see this little, I don't know, you see my cursor here is a little diamond. What that is, it's sort of flagging the top of the hour. So I just click my button to get close to it, and I can click ahead or behind and listen for the top of the hour. And then I could also just, again, go all the way up here and just click, point, and shoot. The other thing I can do is change frequency. So if I put my cursor here in the frequency window, you'll notice when at a certain point it gets little brackets around it. Then I can either use my scroll wheel. I'm just scrolling my wheel. You notice I'm advancing in frequency. I'm just using my wheel, or I'm going to use the keyboard. I'm just pressing the arrow on the keyboard, and I can advance frequency. So I can very quickly change frequency that way. Another thing you'll notice here, there's these little brackets, these parentheses down here. That will say that it's going to stay toggling frequency. So right now I'm just rolling my mouse and I'm just quickly scanning through frequency. And I can now turn that off too. All right, let's. The next thing I want to talk about is, at first this is all I used, and I just sort of was using these the YAS logs as indicator as to whether I had audio, and I would click and I'd listen and toggle forward and back in time. But there's something much better to really drill down on whether you've got good quality audio, and that's using what we call the Spectra. I'm going to talk about that now. So often what I do is, I would usually start with the YAS log, and because usually when there's a strong carrier, or a YAS log indicator, there's usually going to be audio there. It usually, not always, but there's a couple ways you can get to the Spectra. You notice at the top here, there's something called Spectre, and that takes you to the Spectre scan. Another thing is, literally, I just press E. When you're here, just press E. On the keyboard, and immediately it takes you to the Spectre display. Remember, down on this red dot here, you needed to set up, as I explained in the other thing, you had to do a live scan so that you've actually got the Spectre displays. Otherwise, you won't get this. You have to have already done this. I mean, you can do a file scan, but that's a really slow process, and that's a discussion for another time. So this is now 1837. And it actually shows the Spectre. Now, what really works here really well is, it's remarkable, but these little hot peaks, so I can just click here right now, anywhere along these little hot streaks, and in many cases I'll be getting audio. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, sometimes they're ripped up with splash, but this can really give you a good clue as to whether you're going to have audio or not. And I can scroll down, I can just click and hold and drag it down, and so you can see in time here the flag shows up, and so I can just click here and I'm listening to the audio. And then of course I can go down to my time banner. You see my mouse down here, and I can click like that and scroll through time bit by bit. The other thing I can do, of course, is while I'm in this display, the Spectre display, I can also advance in frequency. So I put my cursor here just like I was doing with the YAS log, press my right arrow, and here's immediately 846. Here's 855, for example, and and then so I can just listen to the little bits. While I'm here, another thing really handy is, as you'll notice, this really shows the fine frequency offsets here. With the peaks, and assuming your radio is calibrated, this can be a real clue. Now, what you'll notice is some of the frequency offsets are shown in the expected channels here. This is a function of how this is set. You notice at the top there's a thing called the slider. I'm clicking this at the top. This, by the way, you want to make sure you've updated your Turtle database. You just press Turtle and then download the latest database so it's updated. But you'll notice we have toggles of either the whole world or Europe or Africa, or in this case I've got Asia. I recorded in the morning with my my directional beverages pointing to Asia only, so I'm not bothering to put Oceania up here. But this shows all of the channels that we ought to expect on this frequency. But when this is activated, it'll also show you your offsets that have been published. Whether they're correct or not is another matter, but they're shown here. Assuming you've got this thing down here toggled, which is flags. There's sorry, over here. You notice to the right here, there's a little thing called flags. I don't know, hopefully you see it there on the bottom right. You have to toggle that to get these flags to show. So that's pretty handy. Now I can also I'll keep going, and you sort of see the different frequencies as we toggle along, and it's pretty handy. Now, assuming we find a spot here where we've got some good audio, another thing that's really handy is to do recordings. And boy, it's easy to just record a clip. What I'll often do is just find a spot, a time when I've got a good recording, a good clip I want to record. And there's two ways to do it. There's a pair of scissors here at the bottom. I don't know if you see them. Or I just press C on the keyboard, which I just did. And you'll notice at the top here, right now I am recording. I'm recording audio, and I just let it record for as long as I want. I'm listening to it. And then what I can do is just press C again, or the scissors again. Just press C, and it stops. If I want to adjust the volume, there's a little volume control here. I don't know if you see it. I can press the volume and gradually, multiple clicks, increase the volume or lower the volume. I can actually highlight portions and save portions or all. Then what I'll do is go save as, and then you can save it. I've put a folder called clips, and it automatically annotates that clip for the frequency and the time. So I find that really handy way to do recordings. One other function that I've played with a little bit, I must confess I'm not entirely convinced it's that useful, but it's kind of a cool thing. It's called jagrun. Oh, by the way, you notice this is on 1206. This is an example where those splits are pretty handy. You can see Korean news when this split way over here, and then some Chinese and other channels here on 1206 on a different offset. So, it's never a guarantee, but some of this can be really good clues here. But you notice down here there's a little cat, and this is called jagrun, and I can toggle it to either run on frequency or run on time with this drop-down menu. And you can also set the time, but I've got it set on frequency right now. If I press the little cat, he's going to start running, which is kind of cool. You see him running? Now watch, my frequency will change. So. And again, you can set the amount of time that it's going to hold on each frequency. So here we're running up on frequency automatically. Mind you, you're staying on the same time. I don't know, kind of cool. Maybe some will find it handy for certain things. So anyway, and then you can do the same, of course, if you did time, it would just stay on that frequency and run through time. By the way, one other thing I didn't mention was contrast up here. This is how you can change the contrast of the Spectre view. You just click it and toggle it, either positive or negative, and it basically will change the contrast on the actual spectral display. So another handy feature to get the view the way you want it. Another thing I'd like to point out is initially I was sort of relying, as I mentioned earlier, on the YAS display to point me toward where I might find audio. But in actual fact, what I've discovered is, the power of the Spectre log and the waterfall is it's really important, I think, to consider, really looking at the spectra. For example, here on 531, you'll notice that maybe you noticed. I'll go back. You notice there's really not much there. There's really not much indication that there's any audio. But I press E and pull up the Spectre log. Well, you'll see, there's little bits here, and in fact, in instances like this, I will find audio. Clicking these, these little gems along the way. So just be aware that this is a super powerful tool to find your way through and pick through all of the little gems you might be able to find using the Spectre log. And one last thing I might point out that though I am new, I'll admit, to a broadcast band medium wave DXing, I am absolutely not new to low band DXing. I have been working the low bands on 160 meters for decades. And one thing I've come to learn is the dramatic QSB or fading that can be a reality, especially on the transpolar path to Europe. What I mean is fading signals can come and go from perfect copy to absolutely nothing within 30 seconds. So, this really points to the importance of really listening if you're keen on it for the little gems that you might dig out that, they're just those brief moments of a peak where, you can get some audio. Unfortunately, you got to be real lucky that peak happens to be at the top of the hour, but sometimes you'll get enough where, it can give you an ID on a signal. 73, Steve, V6WZ.